Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to commend the sponsor of this legislation, the Speaker. I believe that it is critical for us to put in context the importance of this piece of legislation, not just thinking of people who often in their employment find themselves vulnerable and fragile because it takes any little thing to lose the job that they need in order to survive. And when it comes to the birth of a child, this is probably one of the most important critical moments that we have. Even more challenging and difficult is when you are about to lose and you have days counted for a loved one in your family, and you need to be next to that person. So, and when you're employed and you're vulnerable in that employment, you have to make a decision between a loved one that is being born or a loved one that is about to leave the earth and leave your side. So in this country, for us to be discussing this piece of legislation at this dating age, as it was said, it is a shame that we do not have a policy of this country that looks and puts family in the place where they ought to be, and workers as well. So I'm proudly voting in the affirmative, and I withdraw my motion to speak. I vote in the affirmative on this piece of legislation.
Mr. Linares in the affirmative. Ms. Arroyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is important that we understand who we are protecting with this law. We are protecting young women that is in the age of reproduction, a time in the life of a person that is young, that it has energy, that could have a good job, but because by any trouble with a pregnancy or any illness, she cannot go to work. Then what are we doing? What are we doing is making sure that that individual will have benefits in the days when she cannot go to work, but making sure that the employees understand that their responsibilities to take in this society at this time and in this year. I'm very proud to vote in favor of this bill. And also, I would like to ask those that voted against them, what are you thinking about? Do you have daughters? Do you have family members that could be affected? What we are doing, the ones that are voting yes, we are voting to protect them, the members of your family. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you,
I vote in the affirmative.
Ms. Arroyo in the affirmative. Ms. Davila.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to talk on a different perspective. I was a young mother. I had my child in 1978, where there were no protections in terms of sick leave or family leave or whatever. As soon as I had my baby, I had to go back to work a week later. And I was a teenage mom, and that was a choice that I made. And I was happy to make that choice. But we're in 2016 now, and we're still talking about that separation anxiety that a mother feels or parent feels when they have to leave their child, a 1 week old, 2 week old, just for someone to babysit and not have that bond is absurd. We should not have to do that. To leave a sick mother, a sick father, or a sick family member that you're responsible for, that shouldn't be happening. I vote in the affirmative 1,000%, and I hope that everyone here listens to clearly what I said. I had a baby at a young age, and it was my choice. Thank you.
Ms. Davila in the affirmative. Ms. Jean-Pierre.
I'd like to thank the sponsor for bringing this legislation to the floor. As a new mom of a 2.5-month-old baby, I understand the importance of being home with our children, and as government officials, it's our duty to support families. And this legislation will not only support parents, but also support the well-being of a newborn child and sick children. So I want to thank the sponsor and the speaker for bringing this legislation to the floor. Thank you, and I'm an affirmative.
Ms. Jean-Pierre in the affirmative. Ms. Gunther.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the sponsor of the Breastfeeding Bill of Rights for Women, this is a very important piece of legislation. You know, when a baby is born, the mother has to bond with the baby, and it takes about 3 weeks before the milk is regulated. And we know, and it's a proven fact, that breastfeeding is so important. The first 3 days, the colostrum. After that, the mother's milk itself. It makes very, very healthy babies. And then I think about my mom, who and my father, I have 3 more siblings that we took care of. If my mother remained in the hospital or was taken to long-term care, that would have been Medicare, it would have been Medicaid, and they wouldn't get the care that a family member would give a mother or father. So this is very, very important for our society. You know, we talk about Europe and all the countries around the world and how rich the United States is. What are we waiting for? Why have we waited this long? And I want to thank the sponsor for her due diligence to make sure this came to the floor. Thank you. And I vote in the affirmative. Very affirmative.
Ms. Gunther in the affirmative. Ms. Weinstein.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to explain my vote. To piggyback on what some of our colleagues have said, you know, there are many, this bill, in particular some of the issues relating to caring for a sick family member, really will help women advance in their career. There are women all over our state, all over our nation, who are forced to give up their jobs because they don't have family leave or parental leave and take care of an ill family member. So with being able to know that you can take that leave, retain your position, have some income coming in, will allow women to remain in the workforce, to be able to advance in their careers. And as has been said, the role in particular of women as caregivers is voluntary unpaid caregivers saves our state a tremendous amount of money. And I think that by passage of this bill, we will actually find a savings of money and an ability to enable people to keep their job and not have to start all over again in a career when they have an unfortunate situation of an ill family member. I vote in the affirmative.
Ms. Weinstein in the affirmative. Mr. Benedetto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for letting me interrupt the proceedings to comment on this bill. I'm very lucky. I had a granddaughter some 5 months ago. My daughter is a lawyer. She's a wonderful person. But her company had paid family leave. And she was able to spend the next 6 weeks with her new daughter, caring for that daughter, bonding for that daughter. My Lord, why can't everybody have that opportunity? I'm very proud of that I'm on the floor here today and able to cast an affirmative vote on this particular law, and thank the sponsor for putting it out there and staying with it over the years. I end my request and vote in the affirmative.
Mr. Benedetto in the affirmative. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 91, noes 41.
The bill is passed. Mr. McKevitt.
Yes,
For an introduction?
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my colleague, Mr. Will Barkley, we have Mr. Barkley's brother-in-law, Peter Chenoweth, from Saratoga, has joined us today. So I'll ask that you please go and extend the cordialities of the House to Mr. Chenoweth. Thank you.
Certainly. On behalf of Mr. Barkley, the Speaker, and all the members, we welcome you here to the New York Assembly. As family, we're always happy to see you. Obviously, Mr. Barkley is pleased to have you be a part of this historic day. Thank you for being here. Always feel free to come back. Thank you. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd now like to ask members to turn their attention to page 4 of the main calendar. We're going to take up Rules Report number 2 by Mr. Cusick.
Clerk will read.
Assembly 9108, Rules Report Number 2, Mr. Cusick, an act to amend the election law.
An explanation is requested, Mr. Cusick.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill would merge the current September primaries with the June primary. It would put New York in compliance with federal law, meeting with the MOVE Act that would allow timely delivery of absentee ballots to our military. It will also cut down on the number of primaries in the state of New York, which I know many of us would appreciate. And it would also, in our estimation, save the state of New York $25 million. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. McKevitt?
Sure. Will the sponsor yield for a few questions, please?
Will you yield, Mr. Cusick?
Absolutely.
Sponsor yields.
Yes, as you explained, that under federal law, when New York had the September primary date for both the congressional and the state offices, that was not in compliance. So there was actually some litigation, and the federal judge then moved our primary to this year. Will be June 28th for the federal, and September 13th, we will then have our other ordinary primary date. But I think under the judge's order, it does not have to be in June. As a matter of fact, that primary date could be held as late as the third week in August. So why is your bill then move it to June instead of in August, which is much closer to the primary day of September we've been holding for the last 4 decades?
Well, Mr. McKevitt, we had picked June based on the judge's ruling, but we also, as you know, the state of New York had June primaries before we had gone to September. So New York has done June primaries in the past, and they had worked in the past. Also, there are issues with timing of other things that go along with elections. There are issues that have to be filled out. There are paperwork. There are requirements that boards of elections have to meet in a timely manner, and June would work better, we feel, than an August primary or other primaries at a later date. And we feel that the fact is also that to move the federal election from June to another date, we would have to go for approval to the federal government again to get approval from the feds to move the June federal primary. So with all of that playing into this, we thought it would be easier at this point to combine it into June.
The issue which I have with that is certainly up until 1974 in New York State, the primaries were in June for all offices. But I think one interesting fact which is different today than it was then is that back until 1970s, the session of this body traditionally ended on April 1st for the year. So there's no session here after April 1st, except for extraordinary occasions on specific issues when the legislature came back. So my concern is if we were to have all the primaries in June instead of September, there's an instance where many members of this body, particularly within the city of New York, where the primaries are really tantamount to general election, could be spending time there in June running for office rather than being here. As we know, we are quite busy towards the end of June. We may have problems either getting a quorum or enough members enabled for the legislature to continue its business. So I think that's a distinction between the 1974 date and what we have today in 2016.
Yes, and that's a valid point. And 1974 is much different than it is now, particularly the way we do business here. My understanding, the only date that relates to our session that's in statute is the start of our session.
Right.
No other part of the dates of our session are in statute. So that is up to the leadership of both houses to pick the times and the days that we are in session. So I am sure if there were a June primary, that the leaderships in both houses would work out dates that worked for the members of the legislature in order for them to qualify for petitions and to run for a June primary.
And just one other point, you're saying that I think many members of this body would be in conformance with holding this primary on one date, but maybe not all of our members would appreciate that, because right now it's actually possible to run for two offices at once the way the current primary system is, correct?
Yes, I am sure, Mr. McKevitt, and I am very interested to see the results on the board who votes no on this bill.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Speaker, on the bill.
On the bill, Mr. McKevitt.
Certainly, you know, there's a lot of extra expenses being spent by our municipalities in the state by having two separate primary dates, where up through 2010 we had one. My concern is that moving it to June is just going to be disruptive to the way that this body works, when you can hold it in the third week in August and still be completely compliant with the federal laws right now. I'd also make the point that when you do go and have to move the date back to June, you move the signature gathering for all offices back a couple months as well. Again, in the city of New York, it may not be that difficult getting signatures in March. If you go into more of the upper reaches of New York State, where it's much more rural, when you can have a significant snowfall on the ground, that petition gathering gets much more difficult in March than it would be throughout the summer. So for those reasons, I'll be voting negative and encourage my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote. Mr. Rivera to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Morelli, since you call out my last name and you pronounce it so nicely, you made me request that I explain my vote. I will vote yes, in the hope that this passes the other house and make it possible for us in this house to be able to keep two of our finest members working with us, and in the other house, another fine member decide where does he want to serve, the state of New York in the Senate or the state of New York in Congress. So I vote yes, and I hope this becomes law this year. Thank you.
Mr. Rivera in the affirmative. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 104, noes 17.
The bill is passed. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wonder if there are any further housekeeping or resolutions.
Mr. Engelbright to...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to star my bill A6071. Thank you.
Bill is starred. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, sir, thank you. Would you please call on Ms. Schimmel for the purposes of an announcement?
First, we will take up some fine resolutions. Excuse me, they showed up at a quick time. On the resolutions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The resolutions are adopted. And now, Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Schimmel?
Ms. Schimmel for an announcement.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. There will be a majority conference in the Speaker's conference room at the close of session. Thank you.
A majority conference, Speaker's conference room. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now move that the Assembly stand adjourned until Wednesday, February 3rd, tomorrow being a legislative day, and that we reconvene on February 8th at 2 p.m., Monday being a session day.
The Assembly stands adjourned.